It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. I dressed up. My co-host in left field where it's hot, wearing an old T-shirt. He did not, John Riley. We welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast coming off a great sports weekend. Our podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores in San Diego to serve you. You've got projects, you need them. They give you the materials. They will consult with you about your ideas. Think DIXIELINE Lumber. And by North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido, offering every one of you who watches our podcast a free eye exam. Just call, set up the eye exam. It's free. Tell them Hacksaw sent you. John Riley, good afternoon. Man, it's blazing hot outside. It's kind of hot in the studio because we got some spicy topics to talk about. What a great sports weekend we had, and we're going to go a lot of different directions. Business items first. Please explain at the end of the podcast what happens when we hit the red button that says time for Fans Forum.
Okay, so yeah, Fans Forum is your chance to get involved. You have a comment or question for Lee, just type it in the live chat on Facebook, X, or on YouTube, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
You got questions, we got answers. Just make sure you jump on board, pick one of the topics we're talking about. Tell us what you think. Item 2, X marks the spot. X used to be Twitter. I'm looking for more followers to join my all-star team on Twitter, on X. Just punch it up at Hacksaw1090. Follow what I put on X. X marks the spot. Third item, have you joined the Insiders Group? This is kind of a special club that we've formed. We're starting to send out some kind of unique offers for those who join the Insiders Group. People, it's absolutely free. Go to my website right there, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. There's a big orange box. Fill it out. You get on the mailing list. Special offer we just sent out within the last half hour, the Insiders Group. John, we're going a lot of different directions here. Let's just get started. We got to talk about what we saw on the golf course yesterday, because that is the story in sports that everybody's talking about.
Yeah, it was a thrilling finish there in Pinehurst.
Bryson DeChambeau, for about 48 hours, was no longer the enemy. He wasn't one of the guys that was from over there, took the payday, went to LIV, and he's done okay on the Saudi Arabian tour. He's not the same guy he was a year ago when he was really disliked. He's come from petulant pro a year ago to fans' favorite right now. What he's accomplished was absolutely amazing at the U.S. Open. Heat, humidity, unbelievable obstacle course rather than golf course, and he beat back Rory McIlroy to the finish. I mean, it was phenomenal. He had a 347-yard tee shot off the tee. He had back problems. He fought his way through adversity. He sprays shots everywhere, and yet he was able to scramble out of trouble. He built a 3-stroke lead, and then he got himself, it all caught up to him, because he was so bloody aggressive off the tee. He missed 8 fairways on the final round, and yet he still wound up winning. He lipped 2 putts that nebbed off the edge of the cup, and I thought, he self-destructed. He hit it into the trees. He hit it into a bunker. Then he hit it onto, quote, native land, which is the brush around the greens, and he survived. He won the U.S. Open. I mean, it was a fashionable victory. It was an emotional victory. And then there was Rory McIlroy, who has not had a Grand Slam win in 11 years. And McIlroy chased him down as DeChambeau was spraying shots all over the place, and suddenly McIlroy closed. He took the lead. He had a 2-stroke lead at the end, and then he missed a 3-foot putt and a 2-foot putt. I guess you could call it the yips, which was a shocker because he had been so cool, had played so strongly Saturday and then on Sunday. as he closed down the lead. DeChambeau on the 18th hit it into the rough. Then he hit it under a tree. And as he got ready to hit it under the tree, he couldn't move the tree branches, so he had to bend over. And by the way, there was a root right in front of where the ball was, so he had to arch the shot and the ball over the root to get it towards the fairway, to get it to the green. He chipped it within 3 feet of the hole, and he won it in front of a roaring crowd. I mean, it was amazing. For one weekend, he was not the enemy. And then his interaction with the fans afterwards, something you hardly ever see. He took the U.S. Open trophy and ran along the stands so the fans could either touch it or snap a picture. It was really cool.
Nice.
And then as he was walking his way up the alleyway to sign his scorecard, there were a number of handicapped kids, couple in wheelchairs, and he stopped and signed their hats and gave them high fives.
Cool.
And exactly. And this was a guy that was public enemy number one a year ago when he changed his tune and said, I'm not going to LIV. Shame on those guys, what they did. And then he wound up going to LIV and took all the money. And prior to that, he was so petulant on the course and temper tantrums, etc. So boy, I tell you, he's flipped. He's really done some really different things. And what did I tell you on Thursday when the first round teed off on this podcast?
It's going to be hot and humid is what you said.
And it's not a golf course.
Oh, yeah.
It's an obstacle course.
Yeah, it is.
Get this, 156 guys teed off on Thursday. By the time we got to the trophy presentation, there were only 6 that broke par by the time we finished. 6 out of 156 on that obstacle course.
Wow.
And if you look closely, the pin placements got tougher and tougher and tougher.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, some of the holes on Sunday, the pin placement was right at the edge of the green. And if you missed it, it rolled into the rocks into the, quote, native land. And then we had pin placements at the front of the greens. And if you overshot, the ball would hit beyond the pin placement and keep rolling and go down the swale. I mean, bogeys, baby. I mean, it was great. I thought it was an unbelievable U.S. Open. I felt really bad for Rory McIlroy because he is so much a favorite. And he's been such a stand-up guy as it relates to these guys that violated their PGA Tour cards and took the money in Saudi Arabia. And for him to come that close, I was shocked that he missed a 2-footer and a 3-footer right at the end. And he walked off the course. He looked crestfallen in the room watching the final hole as DeChambeau won the thing. Got in his car, left, didn't talk to anybody at all. Didn't even do the post-tournament interviews, which I think has disappointed some people. But he's a great player. But this weekend, DeChambeau was the greatest player. And all of a sudden, he's become the fans' man. Mm-hmm. He's either that or all the fans are drunk. I'm not paying any attention to who this guy is, but he's really flipped the light switch. He's become a really good pro. Sure seems, based on his interaction with the people, what he did with the handicapped kids, I was awed because that's not been him at all. I was pretty impressed with DeChambeau. So he's arrived, and the fans view him. I'll love to see what the TV numbers are going to be by tomorrow when they come out. I think they're going to be phenomenal. And John Riley says
it was a great tournament, and that shot that DeChambeau hit out of the bunker onto the green, just like a couple of feet from the hole. It was amazing. But I learned more about DeChambeau in this. First of all, he's from Modesto, California, which I didn't know. And this whole kind of connection with Payne Stewart and the hat and all that is pretty neat stuff. But what did you think of the fans? Because they were like yelling USA, USA when Rory was putting and kind of trying to knock him off his game.
I don't know if maybe they're yelling for DeChambeau, but Rory's a great player, and Rory's been a model citizen. He's from Ireland, and he won so much so early in his career, and he's just had a bumpy ride in the Grand Slam events. I still think he's tremendously popular. But maybe it's just DeChambeau is so irreverent towards everything. Mm-hmm. Rules, the officials. In the past, it was the fans. He'd give them a bunch of crap because they were yapping when he was getting ready to putt. And he's made his science preparation. I mean, he's fanatical about.
Well, that's his nickname, the scientist,
right? Yeah, weight training and always exploring with equipment. He's different. But man, he's got that sucker dialed in. So that was fascinating to see. I sure wish he'd come back here and play. I sure wish all those guys would come back here and play because, I mean, we have seen Rory, we've seen the emergence of Xander Schauffele. We obviously know what Scotty Scheffler's greatness is all about. And if you could take all those guys that went to LIV who are playing well, not all of them are playing well. Dustin Johnson has like died over there. Phil Mickelson's disappeared. But if you took those guys and lumped them together with this next wave, man, you'd have a great tour.
Well, these are guys with personality, you know, that fans can find a way to connect with them. So I just loved everything about DeChambeau in the you know, the ceremony when he got the trophy. And by the way, a couple of amateurs, you know, made the cut, 3 of them. And I think Schauffele might have been one of the 6 that got under par. I think he snuck at 1 under. But it was just a great tournament all the way around. I mean, a really great weekend for golf.
You have to have some type of mental toughness to survive the U.S. Open.
Oh, yeah.
You look at the look of on these guys' faces when they miss short putts that just kept rolling, and then went downhill. Oh, I mean, but everybody's playing the same golf course. Everybody's, with the exception of DeChambeau, was suffering the same consequences too. It was good. You're a golf fan. Have we got a new fan's favorite? Your thoughts on DeChambeau and what he just did. That's a great picture of him. Man, he wears his heart on both sleeves.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was big time celebrating.
We go from that. Fans Forum chat box is open if you like golf. Would you like to see the merger? Do we need these guys back? How do they solve the situation? You got an opinion? Let's hear from the golf fans. No bogeys, just eagles. Jump in the chat box here on Fans Forum. We go from that. Do we really have to talk about this?
This was a horrible, horrible stretch in New York for the Padres.
I thought about this, and I hate to be cruel, and I like these people. But I'll tell you what, the Padres leadership under A.J. Preller, with apologies in advance, it's like a house of cards. They've made all these trades. They've paid all this money. They signed all these international picks. They dealt away the farm system 2.5 times so far. In 9 years that A.J. Preller has built this roster, they've had about 3 good months of baseball. And that was the season in which they beat the Dodgers in the playoff series and got to the NLCS with Philadelphia. And they haven't done anything either side of that. And this looks like another season of underachievement. Is it a house of cards? 37-38. That's the record. 160 million payroll. 23-26 against teams with losing records, including losing 3 in a row to the hapless New York Mets. Offense stopped hitting. The starters look gassed. There's kind of a midlife crisis in the middle of the Padre bullpen. It's amazing. I mean, they lose 2-1, 5-1, and then 11-6. Picked off bases. Failure to drive guys home and runners in scoring position. Errors. Looks like a tired team. They're now 8 games back of the Dodgers, and now they're into the teeth of the schedule. Here come the Phillies, then the first place Milwaukee Brewers, and still to come another 9-game roadie against first place Cleveland, first place Baltimore, and then the Dodgers, who, by the way, are still in first place. There's just too many guys not producing. And Preller is trying to make another trade. But to make a trade of significance, is he going to trade away Ethan Salas? Is he going to trade away Rob Snelling? Is he going to trade away Leonardo DeVries? Those are the top 3 kids. And by the way, all 3 of those kids have stalled and are not having good seasons at all in the minor leagues. And the schedule just going forward is just really hard. Am I fair or unfair saying he has built a house of cards?
It's crumbling right now. I mean, the Xander Bogaerts trade has got to, the signing has got to go down as one of the worst decisions by A.J. Preller, don't you think?
Had a good year last year, but now he's got the fractured shoulder. And by the way, there's still 8 more years left on Xander's contract?
Mm-hmm.
How many more years left on Machado's contract?
Yeah.
And then obviously the Cronenworth contract, though Jake's had a bounce back season, and unbelievable number of years left on Tatis, who plays well in spurts, but that was 4 strikeouts yesterday. He looked really bad.
He was swinging out of his shoes, and after they were just talking about how they were playing clean baseball and going for the base hits, hitting the other way, he looked like he was trying to hit home run every time.
Yeah. House of Cards. Everything they do that you get excited about, quote, when they do it, outside of the 3-month run when they beat the Dodgers and then got to the NLCS with Philly, they haven't done anything either side of that in a 9-year window.
Well, what's your take on Machado? You know, is he still hurt? You know, we see him running to first base at like 50% speed.
He's got a hip issue.
Blowing bubbles as he's going down the baseline. I mean, what's wrong with Manny?
Well, the elbow has impacted him at home plate. That's why you seldom see power. He can't run, so what do? You just make him play DH? He's still got to run the bases if he gets a hit. Yeah, and there's a malaise right now about Manny Machado. There's just something that doesn't look right. I'm giving him benefit of the doubt because I think he's got 2 injuries he's dealing with. But all of a sudden, this persona of, I don't have to be Johnny Hustle, that's kind of resurfaced again. Social media has been rather unkind. They're starting to bag on him as if he's the lone reason this has happened. So House of Cards doesn't look
What happened to
good.
Jeremiah Estrada? I mean, the guy just blew up. Him and Eniel De Los Santos, too.
Well, De Los Santos was a fringe mid-level pitcher to begin with, but Estrada caught people by surprise, and he was accurate. His locations, his velocity. I mean, he struck out 13 in a row. That's unbelievable. Now, maybe he caught people by surprise. Maybe scouting reports have caught up to him. Maybe he's not locating now what he was locating 2 to 4 weeks ago. But you got to trust him as a setup guy to Suarez, and you just got to work with him because he is young, and this is the first taste of success that he's had. So.
And then Dylan Cease, 4 runs in the first inning. He was so good at the beginning of the year. In the last few starts, it's not been that great.
Yeah, I maybe that's his track record, up and down, and we've talked about his aggressiveness and how strong he is and how hard he throws, and we've seen those games where he was really dialed in. And the same thing with Mike King. But then we see the games with not at all. He wasn't that not at all yesterday. Boy, he looked really weird to me. I'm sorry. Padre fans forum is open. You agree with me that this thing kind of resembles a house of cards? Because I haven't seen a hell of a lot here.
Padre fans are going bananas right now.
Hey, go to the fans forum chat box, Padre fans. Jump on board. Jump on me or jump on them. Does not matter. Tell us what you think. From that, let's go to the next team.
Yeah, the Dodgers. They had a kind of a tough weekend here, losing some stars.
They are using the phrase, the media is bloody Sunday. That was a really bad Sunday for the Dodgers, despite the fact that they'd won a couple of games, despite the fact they're in first place. This is scary. Yamamoto, strained rotator cuff, and a lat issue. You don't come back from that in 15 minutes. He didn't tear anything. It's probably a byproduct of he's thrown hard. He's got wicked movement. He's been up around 100 pitches, a whole bunch of his starts, and they haven't put him on a Japanese schedule where he throws 1 time per week. They put him in that regular rotation. So he's shut down. And it wasn't a tricep, it's rotator cuff inflammation. That's the problem. I guess the thing that shocked me is he had tightness twice before, and he yet was still in the rotation. And he warmed up in the bullpen, and he told the pitching coach, or maybe it was the catching coach, that he had some tightness there in the bullpen warming up for the game. And yet he went out there and he pitched, and they yanked him after 2 innings. So I don't know if he was mishandled or whether this thing's just been building, and he doesn't talk about it. That's an issue. Then they lose Mookie Betts, fractured left hand, got beaned, first time that he's ever been hit by a pitch on his hands. No surgery, but you're probably talking at least 2 to 4 weeks with him. Yamamoto, you could be talking 3 months, depending on how he responds. Maybe there'll be a cortisone shot to cool the inflammation in the shoulder. And then Gavin Stone, who was 7-2 out of the gate, surprise rookie, he gets shut down. He goes on the DL. He's got rib cartilage issues. They're recalling Bobby Miller on rehab, who had the great second half last season. But Bobby Miller, in his 4 rehab starts, had an ERA of 7.28.
Whoa.
So we're not talking about somebody that dominated at Oklahoma City. but he's going to get pushed back into the rotation. And now Joe Kelly is gone. He's been placed on the 60-day DL. Now, Kershaw has been told, well, he's had 4 good bullpens in a row. He's going to go out on rehab, but they told him 1 inning per rehab start. You're going to probably have to make at least 4 starts to build your pitch count up, with hopefully there's no problem. They got numbers problems. Like I said, as of breakfast this morning, when they put Yamamoto and Mookie on the DL with Gavin Stone, they got 15 guys on the disabled list. 15.
And they're big time names on that list.
Sure.
Yeah.
So the Dodgers got issues. One sidebar, this story just got out. We talked extensively about Angel baseball, last place Angel baseball, gone to hell Angels baseball. So Kevin Pillar, who's hitting over 300 since they signed him off the street, and he's a journeyman and he can have hot streaks, and he's been the hottest one of all. He was talking to reporters last night, and he said, yeah, the Angel organization has just decided to have the kids drive the bus. Zach Neto, Logan O'Hoppe, those are the 2 vibrant young guys. The kids are going to drive the bus. What's sad is the rest of the roster are a bunch of passengers on this bus. In essence, they're not doing anything. So Kevin Pillar, with kind of an indirect line drive into the front office.
Yeah, for sure.
About, you gave us this, and you're making these kids drive the bus, and the rest of this roster, quote, the passengers aren't doing anything. So Dodger fans, how big trouble are they in? Or can they persevere? Because they could still make a trade to get the White Sox star outfielder, Luis Robert. They could still make a trade to get another pitcher. Dodgers don't care about having a $290 million payroll. So Dodger fan, your reaction in fans forum. Angel fans, what do you think about what Kevin Pillar just said about who's driving the bus and the rest of the passengers on the bus aren't doing anything? Amazing. Next baseball topic.
Okay, moving on down. MLB Notebook. Look at these big stories. Umpire gambling.
Yeah, this is quite a story, and this is a weird story because MLB is not talking about what they uncovered. His name is Pat Hoiberg. He's one of the highest-rated young umpires in Major League Baseball. He did a World Series game a year ago. He got a perfect score on balls and strikes.
Wow.
That's pretty impressive.
That's rare.
Evidently, it has been discovered that either at the end of last season or during spring training, he was betting on sporting events, not baseball, sporting events. Oh, there's a gray area. Are you allowed to go to casinos? You are allowed to bet on other sporting events, but you can't bet on sporting events. How should I say this? You can't bet on sporting events from a stadium. Well, if you're sitting in the umpire's room killing time during a rain delay, you can't be doing this.
Exactly.
And that's an issue. He did not bet on baseball. No games were influenced, but I think he's been disciplined. Anyhow, he's now filed to go to arbitration because he said this discipline was unfair to take me out of the game at this point in time. What was the word that I used about 2 weeks ago in the aftermath of the Marcano lifetime suspension from the Padres and what happened with Jay Groom and Mike Kelly? What was the
tip
word?
Of the iceberg.
You got it, brother. If it's players, there's probably a lot more out there doing this. And now there's umpires that were doing this, not necessarily betting on baseball. So Pat Hoiberg arbitration case is coming up. It's not good, but you can't place bets from the stadium on other sporting events. You're not supposed to do it even from the hotel that you're staying on. Next topic. They're making progress. First time forever. Tampa Bay Stadium across the bridge in St. Petersburg. St. Petersburg City Council has now approved the zoning concept for this tract of land on the other side of the bridge to build a $1.3 billion stadium for the Tampa Bay Rays. They've solved the name change proposal, and they have financing that evidently the City Council is going to agree on. $1.3 billion. Tampa will pay $700 million of it, plus cost overruns. St. Petersburg and the county will pay $600 million. So this has been a long-standing crisis. You know, Tropicana Field, the Sun Dome, looks like a Rector-set stadium. It's just crappy. Nobody goes to.
Yeah.
So it looks as if this thing is going to get finalized. And the fact that St. Petersburg City Council approved the whole zoning mechanism, which makes it an entertainment district, a business district, and it looks like the funding is now going to be agreed to. They can get this thing done. So that's a real positive. Here's a really cool Dodger story. I don't know if you've heard about this. Peter O'Malley, the son of the legendary owner, Walter. Peter, of course, ran the Dodgers in LA until he retired and eventually sold the franchise. Peter O'Malley has turned over all the archives from the Walter O'Malley era to the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown.
Cool.
On Saturday, they delivered 7 boxes of historical data that Walter O'Malley and the family had kept. It dates from 1934, when Walter O'Malley was hired as the Dodgers team lawyer in Brooklyn, through 1979 when he passed on. It incorporates all types of correspondence as it relates to the breaking of the color barrier, correspondence with Jackie Robinson, correspondence with the commissioner's office, the Leo DeRocher suspension for gambling, as well as all other business matters related to Dodger baseball during that era, including the decision to leave Brooklyn and Ebbets Field, what happened in Chavez Ravine when they took over that land encampment and built Dodger Stadium. They have Walter O'Malley's date book, every date book from 1934 to 1979, with all of his appointments and all of his notations.
Really?
I mean, it's a treasure trove. Can I leave right now and just go to Cooperstown? I want to be there and they open the box. I can't imagine.
Like a time capsule.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, from 1934 to 1979. Yeah. So the O'Malley family just donated this on Saturday. They delivered the boxers to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Yankees, first place Yankees, all their big bats, first place without Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole just struck out 10 in 4 innings in his final rehab start, probably in the rotation, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday of this week. And the Yankees not only are bashing the ball, some of their other pitchers who are coming off injuries, like Carlos Rodon and Nestor Cortez, have had really good seasons. Now, the Yankees are a little bit wafer thin in the bullpen. There may have to be a player acquisition, but first place Yankees, and they get Garrett Cole back. Astros, we always talk about bad investments. Do you want ketchup or mustard? The Astros are eating the $30 million still owed on the contract of first baseman DH Jose Abreu.
Wow.
He had been such a success for so long with the White Sox, was so long, stayed there, was so loyal, and then finally left as a free agent when the White Sox said, we're going to rebuild, we're not bringing you back. Went to Houston. He was sent to the minor leagues hitting .083 about a month ago. And they sent him all the way down to Class A, couldn't hit. Got him back to AAA, hit a little, brought him back. He was hitting 167. They released him. And Houston's having a miserable season. They have so many injuries. They got, Jose Altuve and Kyle Tucker, and that's about all there. And Bregman's been hurt, and Bregman's not having a good season. So Angels pitching staff is a disaster. So you want ketchup or mustard? They're eating $30 million they owe Abreu for the next year and a half. So, John, you got a lot of topics on the table. You want to talk about the umpire? You want to talk about the O'Malley family, Tampa Bay baseball? Go ahead.
Well, just a couple of quick hits. Remember, the Padres were in the running for Jose Abreu. And I remember everyone was angry at A.J. Preller for not signing him. Maybe he dodged a bullet. It's like, what if Preller signs a guy, he gets criticized. If he avoids a guy, he gets criticized. But the Astros are a shell of what they used to be. The two topics that are interesting to me are the Tampa Bay situation first, because they have terrible attendance already.
Yeah.
And do they think they're going to get all these people showing up? Because they tax the citizens in Miami to build a stadium and no one shows up there.
Well, the big issue is where the location of the Tampa Bay Rays Stadium is in the old Suncoast Dome. And that was built right under a bridge. And there's hardly any parking. And by the way, the population in Tampa, St. Pete, that's older demographic. That's an issue there, that those people don't want to travel in rush hour to get to a baseball game where they can't find a parking place. So they've had good teams, but people stay home and watch it on TV. They don't go see Rays baseball. The Miami situation, to me, it blows my mind, because that's been such a great baseball market, and it's such a phenomenal Hispanic market. And what's the number one sport in the South American countries and in Cuba? Baseball.
Yeah.
And even the Hispanics have not come out. Now, more recently, It's just because of all the fire sales. So, I mean, Miami, Tampa's attendance, the only reason they're not at the bottom is because the Oakland Athletics and their crappy owner have the Oakland Athletics at the bottom. It's a mystery to me in South Florida with all the retirees who've come from the Northeast, all the baseball fans. But you got to have a good team, and you got to have a new stadium. Miami's got a new stadium, and still nobody's going because now the owner, Bruce Sherman's, fire saled everybody out the door.
I would love to see O'Malley's appointment book around the time when they were evicting all of the Latino families in Chavez Ravine, the eminent domain scandal. And I remember Mexican Latino fans were really angry at the Dodgers and didn't come around until 81 when Fernando Valenzuela showed up. But that's a stain in the history of LA. And I'm curious to see what O'Malley was doing during that process.
Well, I think he saw as a visionary West Coast market, biggest city on the West Coast. And at that point of land, there were people living in shacks in that plot of land on the hill that became Chavez Ravine. So you're going to evict homeless people and people living in dumps.
But it was their dump. They were living there. They were renting it, and they got literally removed by the sheriffs. I mean, it was a terrible thing. But I kind of think it was probably driven more by city politicians than necessarily the baseball executives. That's just my hunch.
And I'd also like to see those pages in 1955 into 57, O'Malley's communication with the borough of Brooklyn over the move. And their attempts to build a new stadium that never got built in Brooklyn. They're going to build it over the rail yards. And there was just a lot of bitterness there that we're not going to give O'Malley all this free land in Brooklyn. Well, then he said, I'm taking my franchise and I'm going to move. And they said, no, you're not. It's the Brooklyn Dodgers. The bums belong here. And he moved. So that's a fascinating thing.
Were the Dodgers the first movers or the Giants? I know one followed the other.
I think the New York Giants got the approval to move, because they had a mess in the Polo Grounds and they had terrible attendance and no way to get anything built. The New York Giants actually looked at Minnesota. They're going to go to Minneapolis, St. Paul. Instead, they wound up going to the West Coast. It had not been announced that the New York Giants had been approved, but as soon as the Dodgers saw the Giants got the approval, they said, we want to go out there and we'll claim Los Angeles. And baseball wanted to have two teams out on the West Coast, so therefore it worked. But I do think it was the New York Giants who the first one got the approval, but the announcement came out simultaneously. I'll never forget the tabloid newspapers in New York. There was the New York Daily News and the New York Daily Mirror on the front page. And I'm sure there's a picture you can find on the internet. I think it was the New York Mirror had a front page of the Dodger mascot, the bum, with a suitcase and a pennant and a train ticket in his hand, about to board a train going to Los Angeles. That was the front page of the New York tabloids the day the Dodgers announced they were moving to Los Angeles.
Wow.
It was a phenomenal piece of journalism.
Okay, and you were living there in Long Island at the time.
I was a kid. I was really a kid at that point. I did not quite understand, but the Dodgers had already taken some games at Ebbets Field. A lot of people don't know this. Maybe there's some of us on our podcast viewership that were deportees from New York in that era. The Dodgers, the last year they were there in Brooklyn, they played some home games in Jersey City in a minor league ballpark.
Really?
They wanted to, quote, expand the market. So they played games in a AAA stadium in Jersey City. I used to watch it on TV. It was a minor league ballpark, but they wanted to market Brooklyn Dodger baseball to everybody in New Jersey. But that was just another indirect message that this isn't working for us anymore, and you have not helped us build this new Ebbets Field that we wanted to build. And then when the mayor and those city council people said, you can't take them. The Dodgers belong to the fans of Brooklyn. And Walter O'Malley said, the Dodgers belong to me. And they were gone. So we got to go to Hall of Fame in winter. January. We spend 11 hours going through Walter O'Malley's treasure troves of stuff he just gave. The president of the Hall of Fame is a friend of mine, Josh Rohrich, a longtime public relations director, actually worked for the Dodgers and the Padres. And he's the new president of the Hall. He must be going crazy because he's a baseball historian. I mean, how cool is that to have the O'Malley archives in Cooperstown?
Oh, yeah. And there's probably, a lot of Branch Rickey stuff in there, too.
Oh, yeah. All the correspondence from all those years. Okay, we get to halftime. We hope you're enjoying what we're doing. You got response and fans forum on baseball topics on the table. Feel free to fire away. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. You got projects, these are the people to go to. All I can say is I wanted doors and windows on my house. I did it. Thank you, DIXIELINE. This guy's house has been built by DIXIELINE. Any door you open, it came from that place. You got projects. These are the people to talk to. We've done business with them. We think you'll be pleased at DIXIELINE Lumber.
Now the summer came, we can go everywhere. So let's take it to the beach. Girl, it's just you and me. Now the summer came, so we can go everywhere. Let's take it to the beach. Girl, it's just you and me. Now when the summer's here, maybe we can disappear.
Brought to you by North County Eye Center of Poway and Escondido. We're all going to need help with our eyes. That's the only message I can tell you. But if you need an eye test, if you need new glasses, if you need an upgrade on contact lenses, or maybe prescription sunglasses, now's the time to call North County Eye Center, because for our viewers, they're offering a free eye exam and a discount on frames. Just call them and tell them Hacksaw sent you. I've done business with them. I'm pleased you will be too. These are the people to call now and down road, North County Eye Center. And as we go to the second half of our Monday bonus podcast, again, for everybody that joins us on our live stream, there's so many new people to join us. We just want to remind you that we do something very different at the end of this podcast. It's like the old sports talk radio shows. You get the chance to call in. Well, you get the chance to join us on what we call Fans Forum.
Fans Forum. Yeah. It's like Escondido, Encinitas, you know. So, if you had a comment or a question in the world of sports for Lee, just type it in the live chat. Facebook, X, or on YouTube, we'll get you involved in Fans Forum.
Like I'd say on radio, get off your ass and get on the phones. I'll say, get off your ass and get into the chat box. Fans Forum coming up right at the end. By the way, X marks the spot. Everybody's on X, a.k.a. Twitter. I'm on X. I want you to join me on X. I want you to follow what I put up on X, a.k.a. Twitter, all the time. Just punch in following at Hacksaw 1090, at Hacksaw 1090. What is it?
At Hacksaw 1090.
Bingo.
And you know what? I wanted to say something about what you do on Twitter, because we're obviously putting video clips and things from the podcast, but those mini polls get a lot of traction, you know, and you're always asking the fans, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? It's good content.
Follow me. Agree or disagree, I don't care. Follow me at Hacksaw 1090. And a reminder, join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. Go to my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. I write on it every day. I want you to fill out the orange box right on the homepage. That way you'll get on our email list, because we put a lot of stuff out day by day. And in addition, we want you to subscribe to what we're doing. Give us a thumbs up. Give us 5 stars. Share with everybody what we're doing with the podcast. Bonus podcast Mondays at 1. Regular podcast Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific. We go from that. John, second half, got a lot of other topics on the table. We're talking hoops.
We're talking hoops. This whole Lakers situation, Genie Bus, JJ Redick, what are they going to do?
JJ Redick met for 6+ hours on Saturday. He had 2 different meetings. One was Rob Pelinka and the search committee. Second meeting with Genie Bus. It appears he's still maybe the hot inside candidate. No doubt that he's smart. No doubt that he's played so many years in the league. No doubt that he's learned from a lot of really good coaches. There's a lot of doubts that he's the right guy. I think they got to make a decision soon. NBA draft is coming up on the 26th, 27th. And of course, free agency, roster construction there. There is a lot of media criticism still being, shot at the Lakers. I didn't realize this till I went back. I was looking at Lakers records. Great franchise, all the banners there at Crypto.com Arena. Do you realize the Lakers have finished in 7th place or worse. 11 of the last 12 years in the league.
Oh my God.
7th or worst.
That's awful. I didn't realize that.
There you go. Workouts. Lakers had a private workout Thursday with Bronny James. His dad was not there. Bronny put on a show. He was 11 for 15 on 3-pointers.
Wow.
He's had, I think it's now 5 private draft workouts with a wide variety of clubs, and he has really stood out. Now, I don't know if he's pushed himself to the back of the first round or whether there's still a lot of people just of the opinion he's a legacy guy. If we draft him, it might be at the end of the second round. So only the first 2 days of the draft are really going to tell us. They have looked at Devin Carter, really good big guard, Providence. Jared McCain, who I think they might take, good guard from Duke. They just brought in Tristan De Silva, big guy who can shoot it from the perimeter out of Colorado. And they like him. He's a little bit undersized to be a center. Here's the University of Dayton. Deron Holmes had a really great season and a great tournament. He might be more of a power forward. And one of the rumblings out there, they're looking, or they haven't brought him in yet, but they might bring him in because he's kind of dropped down the board. He might be there when they draft 17. Zach Edey from Purdue. And, of course, the Lakers don't have enormous great size. This would be more of a project than an instant player type guy, but that's a big, wide body. So that's what they're looking there. Reaction to the Lakers.
Why don't they just admit reality and just make LeBron the player coach? Because we all know he already is.
I'll tell you, just said a lot of strange things from left field. That takes the cake.
Yeah, I mean, because JJ Redick is just a media personality. Yeah, he's played in the NBA. He's no coach. Who else wants that job? I mean, it's a toxic job.
Maybe they're not interviewing the right guys. I would think as we sit here right now. Of course, last week I said it was going to be Dan Hurley.
Yeah, I thought so too.
Did not happen. Dummy us. I'd say right now it looks like it's going to be JJ Redick. Confrontation and criticism aside, looks like it's going to be JJ Redick. Okay, we go from that to the other team in LA. They got some issues here.
Yeah, a lot of roster decisions.
Yeah, roster decisions and money decisions and personality decisions. They're kind of a standoff with Paul George. He can opt out of his $48 million contract right now and then re-sign a max contract, or he can opt out and go on the open market as a free agent. He's got to do it by the last week of June. He wants a 4-year guarantee from the Clippers. The Clippers are willing to give him 3 guaranteed. 3 years, $150. So that's a pay bump.
That's a ton of money.
It's a ton of money,
Yeah.
And they're not going to give him a 4th-year guarantee. They're not even responding to the question.
Wow.
They got a problem with James Harden. He wants to stay, but again, he faded in the playoffs again. That's the 3rd year in a row. He's a free agent, street free agent. They're willing to talk 2 years, $25 million per. That'd be a pay cut. 2 years, $50. He wants 3 years, $75. Guaranteed. They're not going to do that. They might let him go. And I think that we're seeing the end of Russell Westbrook. The end of the playoffs, he really topped off. He didn't play very consistently nor very well. He's got a small money contract. He's going to opt out. Somebody else might take a flyer on him, but they're not going to give him a big money extension. So the Clippers situation, they got 3 big names, and you got the Kawhi Leonard situation. I was told they don't want Kawhi Leonard to play for the U.S. Olympic team in Paris. Why would you go play in Paris? You've already done the Olympic thing. Why'd you go play in Paris when you got this chronic right knee inflammation thing? Why would you do that? So there may be a little difference of opinion about he wants to do it. They say, no, you're playing for us. We don't want this flare problem again. And then here's a really interesting story. I don't know how to connect the dots. They gave Tyronn Lue this really great contract extension, and I think he's universally regarded as a pretty good NBA coach. They're talking to Jeff Van Gundy about coming in to be an assistant head coach and a consultant. Now Jeff had a great run as a head coach on ESPN for 16 years till he got taken off last year. Has dabbled a little bit in consulting with the Celtics. I'm not quite sure why the Clippers would bring Van Gundy in if he wants to be a head coach again, to be Tyronn's right-hand guy when Tyrone has accomplished so much. That's weird.
Yeah, well, it's like that NFL team. One of them brought in an assistant head coach to be over the offense and was going to supplant the offensive coordinator. It's the same vibe.
Yeah, New York Jets.
Then the Jets did that. Yeah, so the Clippers are so mid, like always like a 5th seed and can't get far enough. I say turn the page on Harden, turn the page on Westbrook. George, I'm on the fence on that one, but I think they've got to just kind of have to reinvigorate this thing because you can't have all these old dudes because it's not working.
Eating up all the cap space, and a couple of them have injury history.
Well, when is the new arena going to open?
This fall.
So they need a competitive team in that first year.
Well, the only way that works would be if they create cap space by saying, you're opting out, Paul George, good luck, next location. You say goodbye to James Harden and whatever money Westbrook got. That's the only way you're going to create cap space to go get guys in the free agent market. There's a lot of good players in the free agent market. You're going to have to overpay to get them, and they're going to come here. But all you got left here would be Kawhi Leonard and 200,000 miles on his knees.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're kind of a crossroads of who they're going to be going forward, with or without the stars that never got to the finish line, which was the NBA Finals and the championship. We go from that. Next topic on the table belongs to the NFL.
NFL notes, Kansas City, another stadium situation.
Yeah, border war. That's the phrase being used right now. The Kansas state legislature, John, is put into place funding and a proposal to build a stadium for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Chiefs are locked in till 2030 at Arrowhead Stadium, but it takes time to put the financing together. The state of Kansas, 7 miles from downtown Kansas City, Missouri, has voted no on money for a renovation of Arrowhead. The state of Kansas has come up with this plan. They're going to finance it through the profits of the Kansas Lottery. They're going to finance it through a sales tax on the new stadium venue that will be built for the Kansas City Chiefs. And they're going to fund it through a tax on sports betting from casinos in the state of Kansas. Not a hell of a lot in the state of Kansas. But you get the Kansas City Chiefs, that's a pretty good marker. So that's where it is right now. Clark Hunt, the Chiefs owner, is of the opinion we've tried really hard in the state of Missouri. They voted down our proposal for renovations, and the Chiefs are going to pay a chunk of it in addition to the $700 million that would come from the lottery. But now they're looking across the state line, and the state of Kansas says full speed ahead. This is how we want to do it. This is how we want to finance it. Let's see if we can make this package work. So that's an item. Second logo up there, Jacksonville Jaguars. Please answer me this question, because in bidding for quarterbacks now, the whole thing becomes, can I get $1 more than you just got? Because you got $5 more than the last guy got. And the dollar figure now for starting quarterbacks is pushing $50 million. Trevor Lawrence, really good quarterback, Clemson, I think a solid quarterback NFL. He just signed an extension, $55 million a year. He's never won anything.
We beat the Chargers in the playoffs.
Well, does that count for much? We're not talking about being in anybody's AFC championship game, not in the Super Bowl. $55 million for Trevor Lawrence, so he's now got the high water mark over everybody.
Unbelievable.
Until the next contract is signed by Dak Prescott or whoever. And now you got Jordan Love in Green Bay, who really had a mystical season with Aaron Rodgers exiting. He had, 35 touchdowns, not a lot of interception. But that was the 4th year of his contract. His contract is up after this season. He wants $55 million.
Unbelievable.
And he's had one good year in the league, just like Trevor Lawrence has had maybe a year and a half good there. Bengals, they just solved one of their problems. T. Higgins, who a week ago said, I'm not coming to camp. I am not signing a 1-year franchise tag, has signed the 1-year franchise tag. He'll play this year, 1 year, $21 million. He takes a risk. There's no multi-year deal. Now, they can negotiate a multi-year deal now that he's signed the franchise tag, or he's going to bet on himself that have another good season and not get hurt, and then go on the open market and see if we can get the next payday. By the way, the round figure for wide receivers is $35 million.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And the final comment has to do with the Chargers. Man, this love fest between Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert's kind of cool. They wrapped up their OTAs on Thursday. Harbaugh's final press conference before the summer break about that quarterback and how impressive he is, and Herbert's comments about how cool it is to be in a quarterback's room with somebody that bright as Harbaugh and track record and wins and all that. I'm not going to throw cold water on all that conversation. That's great. But please tell me, when you look at the Charger roster right now, do you see anybody that could catch 100 passes in a season? I mean, yeah, the one you had, Keenan Allen's in Chicago. The other one you had, Mike Williams, is gone. So there's no 100 catch, scare the hell out of your wide receiver at the line of scrimmage. Do you see anybody who's going to get 1,800 to 2,100 all-purpose yards for you?
No.
There's no Austin Eckler. He's in Washington. You got 2 running backs who came from Baltimore, both coming off injuries. And when was the last time the Chargers stopped anybody running the football defensively? Yeah, they've got some pass rushers and all that. Man, there's too many holes here. So all I'm saying is the Charger team that Harbaugh and Herbert envision is not the Charger team that Hacksaw and his co-host in left field envisions. At least I don't think. I don't mean to speak for you, but go ahead. Comment on what's going on in the NFL.
Well, the Kansas City Chiefs situation is interesting because Kansas, the state of Kansas, wants to fund it with gambling revenue, right? So is that just lottery, or is it like taxing on FanDuel and that sort of thing?
No, I think it's sports. It'd be the lottery and sports casinos.
Okay, so that's the right way to handle the gambling, right? If you can channel it properly, you can use it to fund stadiums and do creative things, as long as the players and the referees and the umpires all are good citizens. But it will solve a problem, because how many times have we seen famous people, including presidents of the United States, mistakenly comment about the state of Kansas when the Chiefs win, when they're really in Missouri? At least now they'll be in Kansas.
You like Topeka? You ever been to Topeka?
I've never been to Kansas.
Salinas? No? Okay.
No.
Okay, so that's where we are. And what's your vision of Charger football?
I don't know what to think. It's still kind of confusing to me. The Quentin Johnston, I thought, was going to be a terrific player. He was dropping balls. I'm encouraged by Harbaugh. I like the whole vibe, but I just don't know what to expect.
It's not the Michigan Wolverines roster where I had all those number 1 picks on college scholarships. It's going to take some time, I think.
Well, we need Natron Means and Alfred Papunu, right? Bring them back.
Okay, we go from football. You got a comment? Join us, Fans Forum. Please, no excuses accepted. Jump on board, pile on Fans Forum. We're talking NHL hockey.
Yeah, the teams locally got things going on while the Stanley Cup is on.
Oh, you got Edmonton Oilers taking on Florida Panthers Tuesday night. Edmonton came back with an 8-1 victory, still alive. They're still down 3-1. It's an awful hard thing to come back from a 3-0 deficit. It has not been done in the NHL since 1942 in the Toronto Maple Leafs. The big story in hockey, because we got the NHL draft a week plus from now. And trade rumors. And we got teams that are desperate for goaltenders, and we got teams that are trying to move goaltenders. And the trade window is going to be open. Anaheim Ducks, LA Kings. The Ducks have a goaltender I think they'd like to move. John Gibson, former All-Star, cornerstone guy, really good leader, but they've lost so much and he's taken such a pounding. Well, the problem is he's got 3 years left on a contract that's worth almost $21 million at his age. The Ducks could trade him. They could trade him maybe for some veteran players, second-line goal scorers, maybe defensemen. Maybe they could trade him for a late first-round pick. That's debatable. But maybe it's time to free John Gibson. He needs to go to a winner. He's been such a loyal guy. He's had such a tough time during this lifetime rebuild for the Ducks hockey. Cross town, the LA Kings, I think, need a goaltender. Now, the thing is, they got salary caps problems. And a burning question, where are they going to go to get a goaltender? Because I don't think you can
go to Anaheim.
Well, you could go to Anaheim, but I don't know that the Kings can afford to take on a $6 million contract per year, unless they include a $6 million contract or an $8 million contract they'd like to get rid of, Pierre-Luc Dubois. But I don't know that the Ducks want Dubois, because he didn't do well in LA and he tailed off badly in Winnipeg. And before that, he was in Columbus and they said, see ya. So we got the Kings looking for a goaltender, the Ducks shopping a goaltender. Nashville, which has got 2 goaltenders, might move Juicy Saros. Great goaltender. Little erratic at times, high dollar value. Nashville's trying to rebuild. Boston's got 2 goaltenders. They're shopping Linus Ullmark, who's, I think, got $5 million left on the final year of his contract. Toronto's got goaltending problems. Ilya Samsonov probably needs a change of address out of Toronto. Calgary's got a hot goaltender who gets cold sometimes, but he's big. Jacob Markstrom, he's probably going to get traded. The interesting thing is to see what NHL team moves its first-round pick to get one of those goaltenders that I just mentioned. Ottawa needs a goalie. They got the 7th pick. Jersey needs a goalie. They got the 10th pick. So that's going to be fascinating to see what happens. There's going to be movement before the 29th of this month, maybe right before, hours before the draft starts. I think there's going to be goaltending movement. Kings have got to find one, and the Ducks would help if they move their guy, because Lucas Dostal, the ex-San Diego Gull, I think won the job of the back half of last season and played really well. And he's young and he's got a very affordable contract. So hockey fans, this bears watching going forward.
What's your breakdown of the Ducks with all that youth? Are they kind of ahead of schedule with their offensive players or their defensive players? I mean, how does it looking for them?
That's a really valid question. Rebuilding is slow and painful. You can't put a truckload of 20 and 21-year-old draft picks on the ice in the NHL. It's just impossible to win. They might be flashy. They may score goals. But conceptually, when they all have to be on the ice at the same time, pucks going in the other net all the time. And it's just been painful. They were just miserable last year. But they've got a lot of young guys, and they've force-fed these young guys. And I keep thinking in my heart of hearts, we're going to wake up one morning, and they're going to be really good. But they're not there. They're not even close to being there, and yet they got all their draft picks are up there. I mean, it's such a young group of defensemen, and Trevor Zegras and some of the other young kids up front. And now Dostal, I think, has become an established NHL goalie, but there's no veterans. And you're just sending those kids out there, and they're getting killed more nights than not. I mean, I don't know what their record was. It was god-awful. It was like 23, 46, and 10 or something last year. I mean, that's too much suffering. So now,
well, at the top of the draft board, is anybody as good as Connor Bedard last year? Or is he like a once-in-a-generation player?
He's probably a generational player, but Chicago didn't win bleep with him. He played a lot of hockey, did get hurt. He played a lot of hockey, but he wasn't a difference maker because they don't have enough players around him. And this year's number one is Max Celebrini, feisty young forward, Boston University, one of the top goal scorers in the country. And, he's going to go number one to San Jose. San Jose's got no players. They traded everybody away in this massive house cleaning. It just takes time. So if I'm the Ducks, free John Gibson, go get some veterans who can play for a couple years, because I don't think we need more draft picks. The Ducks have 9 draft picks this year, and they got $40 million in cap space. I don't think we need more draft picks. Go get some veterans that can complement all the young guys they have. Hockey Hotline is open. Feel free to jump on board, Fans Forum. Last topic on the table.
Soccer, FIFA, a lot going on here, Lee.
Yeah, there's a lot happening. This just started on the weekend. The Euro Cup, which is kind of like the Olympics. It's each country in Europe, their national team plays in the Euro Cup. It just started. Big story today. Ukraine played today in a first-round game against Romania. Ukraine, we know the state of affairs. They the players could not stay in Ukraine. They had to practice abroad. They went into France and they went into Poland. And that's where they moved their soccer camps and all that. They got beat today, but the standing ovation at the onset of that match was phenomenal.
Nice.
In Germany. The match was interrupted at least 2 times that I saw, with people coming out of the stands with flags, Ukraine flags, protesting Russia. Political statements.
Wow.
Russia, by the way, Belarus, banned from playing in the European Championships because of what they've done in that country, Ukraine. So that was cool. Ukraine will come back and play the middle of this week, and you play 3 games in group play. But, those guys playing for their flag don't have much of a chance. Everybody's excited. France, Germany, this is going to be fun to watch. France has got Kylian Mbappe. Big games coming up for France in their round. You got Germany, which has got a great side. Italy, it's going to be fun. This does not carry the pizzazz of the World Cup, but damn, it's between the World Cups, and it's significant. Meanwhile, Team USA, here comes Copa America, June 23rd. Team USA's roster is set. And this is going to be fascinating because they are loaded with goal scorers. You and I, since we've been doing this podcast for 15 months, have seen the growth and the emergence of Christian Pulisic, and he is their star. But what they've been able to do is they have surrounded him with Gio Reyno, Fol Balogun, Ty Adams, Weston McKinney, Ricardo Pepe, Haji Wright, Tim Weah. Those are their frontline guys. They got some snipers here. So we're going to see how much of a jump with all these young guys with Christian Pulisic they make in the Copa America tournament. A little bit thin on defense. I watched him play in their first game, and they played really poorly in their friendly against Colombia, got killed. They came back, and they played really different, and they tied Brazil. They tied Brazil. You know, Brazil.
They've never done that.
Yeah, their record in modern-day soccer, USA versus Brazil's national team is 118-1. But they tied them, coming off a crap performance against Colombia. So I'm fascinated to see when Copa America starts on the 23rd, if Team USA is starting to arrive with all these goal scorers around Pulisic. I don't know what's going on across the border. Team Mexico has gutted its roster of what few veteran players they had. Team Mexico does not have its star goaltender Guillermo Ochoa, did not include Raul Jimenez, did not include Jairo Lozano. Chicharito, Javier Fernandez, is not part of that side anymore. And even Chucky Lozano, who just signed here for the MLS team, he's not part of it. Mexico is in a massive rebuild, and they've left all these veterans. Now, Ochoa had a knee injury a year ago, have left all these veterans off their side. So this is going to be fun going forward just to get a feel. But I'm anxious to see what Berhalter, with suddenly this collection of young guns around Christian Pulisic, what that's going to be like.
This is cool. I mean, because I know about this Euro Cup has been a big deal, but is the Copa kind of like the American or the Western Hemisphere version of that?
Yeah, exactly. That involves Central America, South America, etc. So it's a massive regional global tournament that comes between the World Cups.
Well, it's weird because there's like a CONCACAF Cup, there's a Gold Cup, there's this Copa. I guess it's just every year in between
something fills in the calendar,
right? But so is this the one where we're going to see all the stars, or is it still going to be like a minor league team? Well, it sounds like it's a good.
No, this is your national team.
Yeah, cool.
And European soccer takes all this time off. They're running the European championships.
Mm-hmm.
We're running Copa America. So we'll see. We'll see going forward. Hey, it's time for Fans Forum. Our podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center Stores. You got projects? These are the people we want you to talk to. DIXIELINE. And by North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido. Here's the question for you. You're going to need help with your eyes. They are offering now free vision test for every one of Hacksaw's followers on the podcast. Just call them. Say, I'd like to set up free eye exam. Hacksaw sent me. You're going to need help with your eyes, glasses, contacts, whatever. And of course, if it's something more major like cataracts, glaucoma, you need to talk to them. North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido. John, Fans Forum. We got some people with opinions.
Yes, we do. Okay, here, let's go to John to kick us off. He says, they're flying under the radar, but the Washington Nationals are 8-2 in their last 10 games against the Braves, Tigers, and Marlins. That's 2 playoff teams from last season.
Well, Washington's going to be out here as his Padres, once they finish up in Philadelphia, they come back here and the Washington Nationals come in for 3. They're force feeding all their kids. You know, C.J. Abrams had a pretty good season. Mackenzie Gore's had a pretty good season. I mean, they're just jamming all their young guys on the field, and they're scuffling to try to get to the 500 level and stay there. The Braves have had so many injuries, just not losing Spence Strider, the ace of the pitching staff, and then losing Ronald Acuna on top of that. But with the Braves just lost Michael Harris, their star center fielder. So they got an awful lot of injuries, but the Braves are starting to play better. And Detroit has been a bit of a disappointment. I thought somebody when we did the baseball preview, I said Detroit's going to be the team to watch in the Central. And instead it's turned out to be Milwaukee, which just absolutely shocked me because they lost all their pitchers. And in Kansas City with the Padre Rentals, they've had a really good season. Not that anybody in the Central is going to go anywhere in postseason play, but so Detroit's just not quite been what I thought they would be, because I thought they were about ready to arrive. But Kansas City, by virtue of getting Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo, and have stayed free of injuries, Kansas City looks like the real deal.
Yeah, they look a lot better. I'll tell you what. But imagine if the Nationals make the playoffs and the Padres don't. I mean, that could be the end of it for AJ Preller. And then, the Tigers, what the hell happened to Javi Baez? I mean, he was really good with the Cubs.
He's got a back injury.
But he hasn't done anything for a few years.
Hasn't done anything recently. He's on the disabled list with a spine injury. It's hitting 188. And they gave him a lot of money.
Yeah, a ton.
So that's where we are. John, thank you for joining us on Fans Forum. Next question.
Okay, let's go to Chris. He goes, lots going on in sports, Saw, but it's time to talk about the biggest bleeping story of the last 20 years. Joey Chestnut, the most dominant athlete of our time, banned from defending his mustard belt crown all over his affiliation with vegan wieners. Whoever wins in his absence will have the largest asterisk known to mankind this July 4th. React to me.
Okay, here's the question. Every time I go shopping at Vaughn's, we hamburgers and hot dogs and ham and all that. I always see the Nathan's hot dogs, and that instantly brings me back to Joey Chestnut. Now, the burning question, and we won't have enough time to talk about this today, but put this in the hopper. We'll talk about it on Thursday. Is a hot dog eating contest on July 4th really a sport?
Oh, yeah, it is.
Do you spend any minutes of your life that you'll never, ever get back by watching Joey Chestnut down 67
it's like
dogs?
watching a train wreck. You have to watch it if it's on.
Okay. The guy, like I said, he does this, the co-host out in left field. He thinks watching Joey Chestnut eat 67 hot dogs and buns is a level of sport. So I'll throw that out to you. You can respond next time we have the podcast.
Well, remember Kobayashi?
Yes.
He was the little Japanese guy, and I couldn't believe he could fit it all in there. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of a goofy sport, but it's amazing how they have eating contests for just about any kind of food product out there.
Okay, so he thinks Joey Chestnut and hot dogs is a sport. You can agree or disagree with him. Got another one here. Go ahead.
Yeah, we do. Let's go to Emmanuel. He goes, what shortstops are there on the trade block? Will the Dodgers have to overpay to acquire shortstop since they have the biggest need?
Well, they've got a need there, but they've got Miguel Rojas, the former Miami Marlins, having a really good season. Good glove. Didn't hit much in Miami. Didn't hit much at all last year. He's batting .288 right now. He is going to be the starting shortstop. And they just recalled Miguel Vargas, who was a second baseman shortstop that they converted into an outfielder this year in the minor leagues. They've just recalled him. The one that I'm surprised because of the injury issue, they've not brought back James Outman. And Outman's hitting like 367 at Oklahoma City, and he didn't hit at all at the beginning of the season. So I don't think there's a trade coming there, but the Dodgers have just continued dialogue with the White Sox about the trade for former All-Star outfielder Luis Robert. I think that's the trade's going to happen.
Well, a lot of Dodger fans on social media are not excited about Luis Robert at all, but what about Bo Bichette to the Dodgers? I mean, the Blue Jays are unloading their team, aren't they?
Yeah, they're going to start a fire sale. The Guerreros might get traded too, but they just got Kevin Biggio, who's a second baseman, third baseman, because they have the injury problem with Max Muncy, and he's had another setback. So he's had 3 different issues with the oblique rib cage area. So the Dodgers are really beat up. They can probably make one trade. But I think Luis Robert has got a track record. Now, he's been hurt with the White Sox a couple years in a row, but this guy was an all-star. And I think you put him around a good team in a batting order like that, maybe they're going to go ahead and make this trade, and he's still at a fairly affordable contract. So that's fascinating to see. But they'll have to give up players.
How long will Mookie be out? Like 6 weeks, maybe?
Well, they said fractured hand, but no surgery. So maybe that's 3 weeks, or maybe it's 5. But I think the scarier injury is Yamamoto. When you're talking inflamed rotator cuff, that means you shut him down. That means maybe plasma platelet, or it might be cortisone. That means that's at least 2 to 3 weeks before he can touch a ball. Then you got to rebuild him up and hope there's no flare-up. So, I mean, we could be talking 6 weeks. We could be talking 6 months with Yamamoto.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and like I said, effective at breakfast this morning, the Dodgers now have 15 players on the disabled list.
15. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
Okay, let's go to social media here. We got a bunch more people that want to get involved. Let's talk about the Chargers. And this is from Trevor B. Maybe it's Trevor Bauer. I don't know. Everyone still wants to cry about Spanos after he just paid big money for a big name coach. And we're in year 7 of people not admitting that is San Diego's own damn fault for not voting on the Chargers' new stadium. Spanos got it on the ballot. The county did everything they could to run him out of town. Not much he could have done. San Diego myself, but the whining and complaining is pathetic after all these years. Get over it and get over yourselves. If the city wanted them, they would have went to games. They would have voted.
Trevor, I didn't know there were 2 box seats out in left field. So is a seat out there for him in addition to you, or did he just hit a foul ball?
Yeah, I don't know.
Trevor, the reality is the city of San Diego had given Spanos enormous things over the years. He never spent a penny on any upgrades at what became Qualcomm Stadium, San Diego's Jack Murphy Stadium. He never did anything to improve the facility. He would walk around with his hand out. I own the team. Give me, give me. Have you forgotten the ticket guarantee crisis on top of that? That's an issue. The city and county put together a public committee to study how to finance a new stadium. And working with the NFL and the G3 fund, they came up with a plan in which the city and county put money into the pot. The NFL G3 money came in. Spanos would have to put $300 million of his own money. He turned him down. He refused to go to the negotiating table. His eyes were always on LA. And at the last minute, he said, whoa, we'll consider building on a postage stamp downtown at Tailgate Park. Tailgate Park is about this big. Nobody in the NFL is building a stadium on that piece of paper. Your new stadium's got all types of businesses around it, aka what's Petco Park become?
Yeah.
That's what you do. He put that thing at Tailgate Park on the ballot so it would get defeated, and then it could go to the NFL and said, we tried, nobody helped us. That's not the honest to God's truth, because that committee that was headed up by Jim Steig, the longtime NFL executive, had the funding in place, and Spanos refused to go to the table. So he goes up there. He's going to build in L.A. Owner said, no, you're not. They give it to Kroenke. Kroenke built the stadium. He's a tenant. Dean, here's where you're going to play your home games. Put your rent check over there in that mailbox right there. Goes directly to Stan Kroenke. So I'm sorry, Trevor, but you're out in left field with John Riley on this one. This city and county, that time, did everything they could humanly do to build a stadium, and that owner wanted nothing to do. He had his eyes set up there. And they're up there, and they are on the periphery of sports recognition. First Family of Football's team is in last place. Nobody is a massive Charger fan. Not to the tune the Rams are, because the Rams went to the Super Bowl once they got to LA. So I'll just tend to disagree with you there and enjoy the day out in left field with John Riley. That's the honest to God's truth.
Well, Spanos, it was clear that he wanted to go to LA. I mean, he was just going through the motions in San Diego, the ballot proposition. Who was that spokesman he had for the longest time?
Mark Fabiani.
Yeah. And he was a spokesman for other politicians.
He was a henchman.
And he was, a double talk guy, but get over it. I mean, imagine telling the Supersonics fans in Seattle, just get over it, follow him in Oklahoma City. I mean, the fans are rightfully pissed off because they had 55 years here. And then they just walked out the door.
So they sold out the stadium.
Yeah.
I mean, you could not get a ticket during the Bobby Ross Super Bowl era. You couldn't get a ticket during Marty Ball's era.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Trevor, you're entitled to your own opinion, even if it's the wrong one, at least on this topic on the table. One more social media shot.
Okay, let's go. Caitlin Clark, and this is from John. He says, Fever ticket sales up 4,000% over last year. Let's get rid of Clark.
Well, she's getting bashed. She got hammered again with flagrant fouls. This whole Angel Reese thing is so out of control. And by the way, Caitlin Clark's Fever beat the Chicago Sun and Angel Reese over the weekend.
Good.
So, appreciate the greatness of the individual player. Understand what she has meant to the business model of the WNBA. And maybe this story will go away. Maybe this will get old. I give her credit. She's not lashing back verbally about all the cheap shots. And she did finally make a statement. Let's not drag my name into any conversation, AKA racism. Because there are people bashing her. Oh, everybody loves her because she's white and she's made a big difference because she's white. No, she made a big difference because she's a great female basketball player. And she has brought to the league all the things that the Angel Reeses of the world never had in the prior 5, 10, 15 years. This thing has arrived just because of her style and her accomplishments. Is she the best player in the league? No, she's not. She's a good player, but she's brought such interest and such following to the games. All these games are sold out. Some of the NBA teams are playing in 4,500 seat college arenas, are moving their games to the NBA stadium and selling them out at 19,000.
Yeah, good for them.
So she's a great player, and she's learning to play at this next level. This next level is really hard, but all this junk, all the taunting and the trash talking by all the other women, unless we're going to sell separate tickets and just have a cat fight out at midcourt at halftime of a game, what are we doing here?
Well, we're talking about the WNBA.
Sure.
So I think from a PR perspective, this is all kind of working out okay. That hard foul that Angel Reese had was no different than what I see in the NBA.
Oh, do you think Larry Bird got clubbed a little bit in the head?
Yeah, from Bill Laimbeer.
Yeah, exactly.
So this was actually tame compared to that.
Well, unless Caitlin gets up off the floor and throws a punch, then maybe that'd be interesting.
But it was weird. I was watching the press conference of Caitlin Clark and two of her teammates, and she's saying, "Oh, I'm just playing ball," and just kind of giving the standard lines. But the body language of her two teammates, they were off on the edge of the table, and one of them had her arms crossed and was kind of making weird faces.
Well, Clark is the one that gets all the questions. That's why.
Okay. Well, yeah. So, it's interesting how this is going beyond the scope of sports, and, it's racism, it's sexism, it's sexual orientation. Everyone's trying to make it into something bigger than it is. I think the WNBA should just be as happy as hell that we're talking about them.
She's balling. She's a really good player.
Yes, she is.
She's not a star yet in the league, but she's a really good player.
I agree.
Hey, listen, we thank you for joining us on our Monday bonus podcast. Hope you've enjoyed the topics on the table. Give us a 5-star rating. Give us a thumbs up. Want you to share. Want you to subscribe. Want you to register at Hacksaw1090 on X so you can follow me on Twitter too. We'll be back on Thursday. Podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center Stores and by North County Eye Center of Poway and Escondido. John, enjoy the hot weather out in left field. We'll see if the house of cards can be rebuilt, the one I call Padres baseball.
Yeah, that's a dump right now. But can the Mavericks or the Oilers make a run? What do you think?
We'll find out. We'll be talking about it Thursday. And thank you for joining us on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.